Evaluate algebraic expressions. Okay, so whenever you work in problems like this, what we have to do is we have to do the substitution. They are going to give you the values. In this case, they say x equals -2 and then y equals 3. Well, for number one, this means that we're going to be multiplying. All of this is multiplication. This is 3 times x, whatever this is going to be times y. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to replace the values. So I'm going to use parentheses to show that we have multiplication. So that would be 3 times x and then times y. This is parentheses. Parentheses means that you are ready to multiply it. So anyway, x equals -2. So I'm going to write -2 and then times y. The value for y is going to be 3. Now multiply the signs and then multiply the numbers, right? So multiply positive times a negative. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cover the two signs that I have in that multiplication. So the answer should be negative. But then I'm gonna keep multiplying because I have to multiply all the signs. Negative times a positive. So cover the two signs that you have in that multiplication. That tells you that the the answer should be negative. So all of this should be negative. But now multiply the two numbers. 3 times 2 is 6 times 3. The answer should be -18. For number one, that's the answer. All right. So, but you multiply all the signs. You got to remember that. And then multiply all the numbers. Well, on number two, the second one, this means that you multiply x times y and then plus 3. Well, this is a multiplication, so I'm gonna have to use parentheses to show that we're multiplying, and then plus y. I'm not gonna write it inside a parenthesis because there is no multiplication here, right? So I'm gonna just do the substitution. So the value for x is gonna be -2. The value for y is gonna be 3. And then plus y, I'm gonna write just 3. Now, multiply the two signs and then multiply the two numbers. So multiply negative times a positive. So I'm going to cover the two signs that I have in that multiplication. That tells me that the answer should be negative. And then 2 times 3, that would be 6. Next step, I'm going to just bring down plus 3. Okay. To get the answer, all what you have to do is uh, look at the signs. Can you see that they have different sign? So whenever you have different sign, you subtract and you wanna keep the sign of the biggest number, right? So that's how you get -3. The biggest number is negative, so that means that the answer should be negative. All right. So that's how we get the answer for number two. Number three. So this means that 2 is gonna be multiplying x, and then whatever that is, we're gonna be adding 3 times y. Okay, so what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna start by doing the substitution. So I'm gonna just rewrite 2 times and then parentheses showing that we have multiplication, and then 3 times. And what I'm gonna do now is replace the values. Instead of x is gonna be -2 and y is gonna be 3. Okay, so now first I have to multiply the two signs, positive times a negative. Remember, if you don't see any sign, it means that the number is positive. So all what you're gonna do is cover the two numbers that you have in that multiplication. That tells you that the answer should be negative. And then multiply 2 times 2 is gonna be 4. On this side, I don't have to worry about the signs because when you multiply positive times a positive, the answer is going to be positive 9. Now, the answer. What we're going to do is now look at the signs. Can you see that they have different signs? So subtract, that's how you get 5. Keep the sign of the biggest number. Can you see that the biggest number is positive? So that's how we know the answer should be positive. And that's how we get the answer for number 3. Now, let's do the next one, number 4. This means 2 times x minus 3 times y. When I do the substitution, I'm going to replace x by the value that they want you to use. Same thing for y. And I have to write it inside the parentheses because parentheses means that you have multiplication, and that's what this means. So on this case, I'm going to write negative 2 and y equals to 3. Okay. Once we did the substitution, what we're going to do is we're going to start multiplying. But you multiply the two signs first, positive times a negative. So the answer should be negative. And now multiply the two numbers. 2 times 2, the answer should be negative 4. Now we do the same thing with this other sign. Okay, so multiply negative times a positive. The answer should be negative. And multiply 3 times 3, the answer is 9. Now, can you see that both numbers are negative? So when they are negative, both of them, we're gonna add it up and we're gonna keep the sign. So just remember, if they have the same sign, add it up and keep the sign. So the answer should be negative 13. Then the next one is gonna be number 3. Number 3, this means that 3 multiplies x, and then whatever this is gonna be multiplying y. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start by doing the substitution. So all of this should be inside the parentheses. And then we have plus, and this is x times y. Okay? So I have to write it inside the parentheses because that is multiplication, right? The value for x is gonna be negative 2. The value for y is positive 3. Next, x is negative 2, y is positive 3. And now I have to multiply all these signs right here. I have to multiply all of them. And then I will multiply the numbers. So multiply positive times a negative. Okay, so the answer should be negative when you multiply these two. But then you multiply negative times this positive. So it's the same thing, right? You multiply a negative times a positive. So that tells me that the whole thing right here is going to be negative. After I know that this is negative, now I can multiply the numbers. 3 times 2, that would be 6, times 3. The answer should be negative 18. And now I have to multiply all these signs. Okay, positive times a negative. Okay, the answer should be negative. And then I have to multiply negative times a positive. So one more time, you gonna cover the two signs that you have in that multiplication, and that tells me that all of this is gonna be negative. And now multiply the two numbers. 3 times 2, that would be 6. Can you see that they have the same sign? Add it up and keep the sign. So that's how you're gonna get negative 24. And now let's do the last one. This means that 4 is gonna be multiplying x. Then we have 5 times y. And then all of this will be plus 2. The value for x is going to be negative 2. The value for y is positive 3. After I did the substitution, now I'm ready to multiply it. Multiply positive times a negative. So the answer should be negative. And now multiply the two numbers, 4 times 2, that would be 8. Then 5 times 3, both numbers are positive. So of course the answer should be positive 15. And then it's going to be plus 2. Now, these two have different sign. Subtract. Keep the sign of the biggest number. That's how you get positive 7. Bring down the plus 2. 7 plus 2 is going to be 9. And that would be the answer.